All right, good evening, everyone. We're going to get started, so if you could please grab a seat. All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. Before we do pledge allegiance, I'm just going to read a quick statement. It reads, prior to the commencement of our board meeting, we'd like to remind our public, in order to keep all those in attendance safe, the face masks are required indoors while in attendance for the duration of this meeting. The OER regulation does allow for removal of the face mask if you will be making a public comment, at which time, when it is your time to make your public comment, you may remove your face mask to give your speech. And when finished, you will need to put your face mask back on and keep it on for the duration of the time you'll be present for the meeting. If you need to take a mask break, you're welcome to leave the room and go outside the school premises to do so. When you re-enter the school premises, you will need to put your face mask back on. If it becomes apparent that individuals do not comply with the mask mandate, the board may adjourn the board meeting and conduct further board meetings in a manner in which adherence to the mask requirement can be assured. So with that, everyone can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first item on the agenda is review and revision of the agenda. Do any board members have any revisions or adjustments need to be made? Seeing none, let's keep moving forward. Item 4 on the agenda, the district vision and mission statement. Director Rasmussen, could you please read those?
Thank you, Chair Aparicio. So the mission statement is graduating all students to be college and career ready, challenging and inspiring and empowering them to be healthy and productive citizens. The vision statement reads, North Wasco is a premier school district. We provide students with a rigorous and relevant education, with schools performing academically in the top 5% in the nation. Our students are inspired by a talented, innovative, and highly effective staff that values continuous professional growth. Our district graduates citizens who are ethical and motivated to achieve their limitless potential. North Wasco is fully embraced by the community, reflecting its health and well-being.
Thank you, Director Rasmussen. Vision mission. All right, item 5 on the agenda is our student and staff recognition. We do have a quick recognition. We wanted to quickly recognize Director Nelson for his service as chair prior to this year. So, Director Nelson. All right, the other quick shout out I did want to give is to the boys and girls cross country team. They had districts yesterday and they did really, really well. The boys took first place. The girls took second, so that means they're headed to state. And then our coach was recognized as head coach for the boys team in the IMC. So we wish them luck at state, and we're hoping they bring home some hardware that then we can share at one of these meetings in the future. All right, item 6 is our student representative reports. And this evening we are starting with the Dallas Middle School, so Rokaya and Riley.
Dallas Middle School ASB President. Hello, my name is Riley Elliott, and I'm ASB Secretary. So far, ASB has had the privilege of buying water bottles for students to buy in the student store because the water fountains have been turned off because of COVID. We're wrapping up our first spirit week of this year. Students have had lots of fun wearing school colors today. We are also working on some fun events upcoming, like a canned food drive and winter decorations. Finally, I just wanted to thank you all for all that you do on behalf of the Dallas Middle School. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Or middle school folks? All right, thank you so much. Next, we have the Dallas High School, Sophia Lewis.
Hi, I'm Sophie. I am the ASB Student Board Rep for Dallas High School. So for athletics, as you know, we did very well in cross country. We are ending with fall sports. Varsity football is 2 to 5. Their last game is tomorrow at Watonka. Varsity volleyball was 7 to 11 overall. They placed 5th. Varsity boys soccer was 643 overall, and they went to state playoffs and got 3rd place. Varsity soccer was 473 overall, they placed 4th. Varsity boys cross country, they won team district championship. Several runners headed to state. Also, same with girls cross country, they placed 2nd in team district meet, and several runners headed to state. Varsity competition cheer won 5A large school title at game day championship competition. We have a total of 228 students participating in fall athletics during this school year, and winter sports signups are underway. So for Kurt's Gym, we are using it on a limited basis. Heating and air conditioning are still being fixed, but basketball will be starting in there soon. The band has been moved into the auditorium, and parent-teacher conferences just happened, I think, last week. The play Sistification of a Midsummer's Night Dream is coming up the 2nd week of November. This week is homecoming. As you know, the ASB is very busy with that. That has been being planned for like 2 months. So Monday was dress up in spirit gear. We had door decorating after school, and the Monday assembly video was sent out, and that featured a teacher fashion show, which many students enjoyed. Tuesday, we had a teacher look-alike day. We had musical chairs in the hall, and there was a homegirl soccer game at Watonka. Wednesday, we had Decades Day. There was a volleyball tournament in Kurt's Gym from 6:30 to 8. Many people came to that. I had really good attendance. And we had potato sack relays. Today was a Saturday formal day. We had a drawing contest, and there will be a boys' home soccer game later tonight at Watonka. Friday, we had a costume day, and there will be an early release for barbecue. And we had a sports football theme for football, and Saturday we had a homecoming dance this Saturday, and that wraps up homecoming.
Awesome, thank you, Sophie, and go Hawks with all the sports we have left this week. Next, for student reports, we have Chen Lu from Redistricting.
Okay. I want to thank the North Wasco County School Board for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Chen Lu, and I'm a 5th grader in Mr. Kaiser's class at Dry Hollow. Dry Hollow staff and students are so glad we're back together in school. It is nice to be able to talk to everyone and play with our friends. We have been very busy at Dry Hollow this year. This past Friday, we had a Wear Pink for the Cancer Warriors in Your Lives Day. Pretty much everyone had on pink shirts, pants, shoes, or they had crazy pink hair. Mrs. Corey has been a driving force in organizing these activities. We also have an online book fair going on right now until the 31st of this month. You might want to check it out and maybe your kids will get a book if you have children. Hopefully the book fair will raise a lot of money for the school library. Every morning, Dry Hollow has the school news on TV. Several staff members and students have done the news. These news announcements are fun to watch. Quite a few of our students and staff have great technology skills they use for making the news for everyone. These announcements wish happy birthday to Dry Hollow students, give the daily lunch menu, have a quote of the day, tell what is happening in history on that day, and have some pretty funny riddles most of the time. There are several things we're looking forward to at Dry Hollow. Pretty soon we'll get our student council going. This year, Mrs. Cyphers and Mrs. Hollister will be the student council advisors. Mr. Kaiser is taking a break. Also, Mrs. Stewart is planning on doing OBOB, and Mr. Abrams and Mr. Kaiser are working on a way to head chess club. This year, our focus is on kindness at Dry Hollow. Several classes have activities going on that focus on being kind and doing kind things. Think of the last time you did a random act of kindness. Maybe you bought someone's coffee, or maybe when you drove through McDonald's, like one of our teachers does, you pay for the meal cost for the next car in line. While kids can't do these things, most students at Dry Hollow do kind things every day. They hold doors open, clean up messes, or help their friends. Recently, Superintendent Bernal came to our class and shared all about me back with us. She got an A+ on her assignment, and we learned a lot about her. We encourage other board members to be a part of our school as well. Again, I want to thank you for letting me speak before you tonight.
Thank you for the update, Jen. I'm glad Ms. Bernal got an A on her assignment. And then our last student report comes as a video submission from Chenoweth Elementary.
Good evening. Buenas tardes. My name is Sr3. Mi nombre es César Álvarez, and we are in the specimens class, 5th grade class at Chenoweth Elementary. Y somos la amazing artwork displayed around campus as well. Los estudiantes de jardín de pinturas también han estado creando obras de arte increíbles que se exhiben alrededor de China. Last year and this year have been tough, but we are trying our best to make it soon, hoping that things will go back to normal soon. El año pasado y este año han sido difíciles, pero estamos haciendo todo lo posible para superarlo. Y esperamos que las cosas vuelvan a la normalidad pronto. That's all the news for this month from Chenoweth Elementary School. Todo está en las noticias de este mes de la escuela primera Chenoweth. Don't forget, together we are better. No olvides estar todos nosotros.
All right, that concludes our student representative report. Next is item 7 on the agenda, which is comments from the audience. Public comments. Before we start, I'll read statement, and then we've got some folks have signed up to speak in person, and I've also received some via email that I will read prior to those here in attendance. So, with that, North Wasco County School District Board of Directors welcomes public comment on non-agenda items. Those comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. The board will not take action nor respond to public comment at that meeting. Following the meeting, the board chair, vice chair, and superintendent will together determine the appropriate level of response. The board at its discretion may require the proposal, inquiry, or request be submitted in writing and reserves the right to refer the matter to the administration for action or for study and to report at a subsequent meeting. This is for policy DDH-AR, public participation in board meetings. If the board requires a proposal, inquiry, or request be submitted in writing, it should be sent by email with any reference materials to Cindy Miller at millerc@wasco.k12.or.us. Speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations or programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning specific district personnel. Speakers are also invited to submit questions in writing via email to Cindy Miller at millerc@wasco.k12.or.us for review by the board chair and superintendent. That email is also up on the screen for convenience as well. So with the comments submitted, start with Shay Evans, and it reads, to whom it may concern, I think masking outside should be optional if kids want to. They can, but aren't required. My son has asthma and gets exercise-induced coughing fits without masks that require a routine inhaler. Wearing the mask exacerbates the asthma. Thank you for your time. Shay Evans. Next one comes from Aaron Clement, and it reads, Dr. Renal, I'm writing to express my concerns over the outdoor mask policy that has been implemented. I know that for my own children, masks indoors has been a difficult thing to deal with. They are constantly complaining over having to have their face covered all day and being reminded day in and day out to correct their masks. My own thoughts on indoor masks aside, we have dealt with it and they have been respectful and accommodating with these rules. That being said, they deserve to have a break during the day, not just a few minutes they get to eat. The children should be allowed to leave the masks inside and play outdoors during recess without this anxiety over their heads. It has not been proven that COVID spreads outside during play between children. The effects it is having on my children, I'm sure, is also affecting other children in the same way. Please consider going back to the way school started with kids being allowed outside without masks. It will result in much happier kids, parents, and staff alike. Sincerely, Aaron Clement. Next one comes from Jamie Scher. It reads, to Dr. Bernal, I'd like to express honest concern about the mask wearing at recess time. My child is already having a hard time wearing a mask all day during class. At her age, the mask is used as a napkin for food and what else they might get on their face or hands. To make them wear a mask all day, and especially at recess, is a joke. These kids need to be able to run and play without having trouble breathing through a germ/food-filled mask. The numbers are down, and most students are in extracurricular activities that allow them to not wear a mask outside. We need to consider unmasking our children outdoors. Very respectfully, Jamie Sherman. The last written comment comes from Megan Clement, and it reads, to Dr. Bernal, I'd like to express honest concern about the mask wearing at recess time. My children are exhibiting large amounts of anxiety when it comes to mask wearing after long days at school, wearing them constantly. They are young children with very little breaks. This is completely unacceptable to police these children like this constantly. In the long run, you are creating problems for these children. Please consider at least giving them recess with masks off, just like you did the first 2 weeks of school. They need the opportunity for a break other than for just putting food in their mouths. The numbers are down. We need to consider unmasking our children outdoors. Please consider the long-term mental health you're putting on these children. Stop instilling fear. They've been through enough. Very respectfully, Megan Clement. And that concludes those submitted in writing. I will shift over to those speaking here in person tonight, and we're going to be starting off with Wendy Kuno. You know, the 2:45 mark, I'll just interrupt real quick to let you know that 3 minutes is close.
I have a number of parents that just called
I'm going to need to press the button. There you go.
I have unlocked the parents just wrote in, I want this mask mandate needs to be taken out of the indoor and outdoor school completely. The CO2 levels that these children are encountering is detrimental to their health. And it has been proven that children do not transmit any COVID, hardly at all, at home or at school. And the fact that this is continuing proves that it is not a health issue. I want to tell you guys about this. I don't know how many of you have ever read this, but it's very pertinent, and I want you all to be aware of it, every single one of you. Permissible medical experiments, great weight of evidence before us to effect certain types of medical experiments on human beings, when kept within reasonably well-defined bounds, conform to the ethics of the medical professional generally. The protagonists of this practice of human experimentation justify their views on the basis that such experiments yield results for the good of society that are unprocurable by other methods or means of study. All agree, however, that certain basic principles must be observed in order to satisfy moral, ethical, and legal concepts. The voluntary consent of human subjects is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This latter element requires that before the acceptance of an affirmative decision of the experimental subject, there should be made known to him the nature, duration, and purpose of the experiment, the method and means by which it is to be conducted, all inconveniences and hazards reasonably to be expected, and the effects upon his health of person which may possibly come from his participation in the experiment. And this includes this mask mandate. It is not a law. The governor didn't pass a law. They put it up to every school board, and this school board needs to get rid of it. The last time I was here, I read you a study from Sweden showing that they conducted that study where half the kids in the lower grades wore masks or stayed home, and the higher grades, nothing. No masks, no separation, business as usual. No difference in the two. No difference. But here you are putting gags on our children, endangering their health, endangering their health. And I, for one, will hold each one of you accountable for any of these children
15 seconds.
that come up with any problems. What I just read to you is an excerpt of the Nuremberg Code, which makes every single one of you liable because you are making decisions that are not mandated by law and where they would be illegal. You cannot break our individual civil rights, which is what you're doing, because these children have rights too. None of them should be forced to wear these masks. None of us should be forced to wear it just to be here to give you our opinion. This has got to end, because I'm going to make sure when Governor Brown, April K. Brown, is called up on this, that everybody that is towing the line with her is going to be included in this. It's not okay. It is not okay. Children do not transmit this flu, and it is a flu, and it's over 99% survivable by everybody in this room and every kid that comes in this school. So why are you giving them medical detrimental masks to wear that will affect all of the children, not just the ones with asthma or pre-existing conditions? It affects all the children. And everybody here is going to be liable, and everybody here is going to know about it when things happen. That is a promise. That is a promise.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker this evening is Shannon Saldivar.
Hello, I'm here with a letter from another parent as well as a statement of my own, a parent who wasn't able to attend due to some prior engagements. Her name is Rosa Castro. Her and her family are small business owners in our community. She has a son who attends high school and another child that attends an elementary school here in our community. Her letter says, to all the teachers, staff, bus drivers, and board members of District 21, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for standing up for our kids and implementing the extra safety measures like wearing a mask to ensure we could keep our schools open despite all our differences in opinion among the adults. Thank you for remaining firm on these measures and standing up for these kids who depend on us to make these decisions. I know wearing a mask will not prevent COVID 100%, just like a safety belt can't ensure you survive a car wreck, nor can a helmet ensure you don't suffer brain injury when playing football, but we know it helps. And these measures do make a huge difference. It is obvious these measures are working, given we have not seen a huge outbreak of COVID cases within our schools, in spite of our students sitting next to each other in the classroom or next to each other riding the bus home. Again, thank you. Thank you for being the responsible adults who have stood up for our kids despite our differences in opinions. Your work has saved lives, whether or not others want to recognize it, and that makes each one of you a true hero. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, with respect and sincerity, Rosa Castro. For myself, Shannon, thank you as well. We're almost done with the first trimester, and we're still in person all day, which is amazing. Obviously, the safety measures you have in place are working. I want to stress how important in-person learning is for our students, as I'm sure you all know. Many in our community, school is the only place they feel love. School might be the only place they feel safe. School might be the only place that they receive regular nutrition, or just be able to be a kid. I am thankful and appreciative that at, again, the end of the first trimester, we're still in person and all day. So thank you for what you're doing. There was a meme that said a teacher is a multitasking educational superstar who lives to inspire and loves to encourage, and that's what our educators are, and I'm thankful and appreciative to them, as well as the school board and the support staff too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saldivar. All right, our last speaker tonight is Benjamin Warren.
Thank you, me, and
Okay. Okay. All right. With that, that concludes public comment portion for this evening. Next on the agenda is item 8, which is our consent agenda, and that includes our school board meeting minutes from September 23rd, 2021, and an updated personnel report. Any discussion, comments from the board members? No, not that I want to entertain a motion for approval.
I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion by Director Nelson and second by Director Richardson. Any comments or discussion? All right. With that, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, please give your hand, say aye. Chair votes aye. Any opposed? Yes. I missed, did you vote yes? Did you? Okay, I missed it. All right, so motion passes. All right. Item 9 on our agenda is the board action calendar review. Any questions or comment? I think the thing to note there is Division 22 standards, which we're listening to getting reported on tonight, kind of shift to October now in our annual calendar. Is there anything on October? And obviously, this is kind of an exception to this year with our board retreat happening in the month of October. And normally that'd be August, but decided to push that to this year. Any comments or anything that we need to think about ahead for November? Nope. Okay. All right, with that, we will move to item 10, which is our school board subcommittee reports, starting with the D21 Education Foundation. Director Thistlesley, any update?
Yeah, sure. Can you all hear me okay? Excellent. Okay. So in October, we distributed 7 classroom mini grants of around $500 each to, I think, 4 different schools that were awarded. So that was fantastic. And the money is being deployed. I already hear the high school purchase a new PA system for athletics and are happy to have new technology. So that's how it's being used and a lot of other classroom projects. And then what's next on the agenda for us is we're working on updating our brochure that we're going to distribute around town that says what we do and how to donate. And then we are also going to be sending out an annual appeal letter in the month of November to try to raise funds for our next round of mini grants that will go out in the spring. So that's what we're up to. And as always, we are always incredibly grateful for any donations coming from the community to support our programs.
Awesome, thanks for the update, Director. This was great. Next is the community outreach team, Director Stevens.
There's nothing to update this stuff.
All right, next is the wellness committee, Director Richardson. Any updates?
No report.
Okay. Building and facilities report, Director Jones. Any report? Okay. District Executive Committee, Director Rasmussen. Any update or report?
We are having our first meeting on November 4th.
Right, some more to come at our next meeting. Great. Let's see, Wasco County Forest Collaborative, Director Nelson. Okay. And lastly, our D21 Scholarship Committee, Director Stevens.
I introduced in our last meeting on Wednesday, and we just had a discussion about where the finances stand for the scholarships right now, and we will discuss further on April.
All right, that concludes our subcommittee reports, and we'll move on to item 11 on the agenda, which is our new business, and starting with first of the few reports that we have this evening, is the high school report. Mr. Evans, Mr. Williams, and Mr. Prost.
They're going to do most of the talking tonight. Everyone, this is Phil Williams, he's the vice principal of the high school, and Leanne Neal, she's our veteran counselor and counseling officer. So this is all that my field house. They're going to lead off all this chat a little bit.
I have a copy of our presentation so you can see it easier. It's going to be kind of hard on the slides otherwise. So thank you for letting us come tonight and share information with you about the graduation requirements. Sometimes we kind of make the assumption that people know what it is that kids have to do in order to get through their 4 years. And so we put together this slide to show presentation for you tonight. It's all around the district policy. So the second slide in the presentation shows the policies that we are referring to, the district level policies, but there's also state law and state requirements that are also tied into this. So we're going to start out with what is a credit. And so credits are coming from 1906, actually, from the Carnegie Foundation. Carnegie University was trying to establish some uniform method of recognizing a person's learning. And so they came up with what's called a Carnegie unit, and that's equal to 120 hours on a course of study. So after you spend 120 hours, it would credit you with 1 credit. Northwest, our district requires 24 credits to graduate, plus a couple of little additional requirements that we will go over tonight. Most of the classes at the Dallas High School we're on a trimester system, so they get about 60 hours per trimester, so each third of the class is half a credit. So most of them have a Part A and a Part B, so that ends up being a 1 credit class. We even have one class this year that's got a Part A, B, and C, as well as the AP classes, and they get 1.5 credits for those classes.
Okay, so the graduation requirements specifically, Mr. Williams said 24 credits, and for a regular diploma, those 24 credits are divided up into specific 4 credit areas. English language arts is 4 credits. On the left side of the screen in that box, math is 3, science is 3, but one of those credits is biology. Social studies, which encompasses global studies, U.S. history, government, and economics. Some pretty specific there. Applied arts, 3 credits. This is the CTE, performing arts, fine arts, classes primarily foreign language as well. We do have a credit of PE that's required and a full credit of health, and then the remaining credits are elective. That does not mean they have to take elective classes. It means anything that they take in one of those 4 areas that has already been filled counts as elective, and that can be a little tricky for some of our students when they're first starting and their parents too. So if they fill the credit area, they count as elective going forward. Additionally, at the Dallas High School, we have some graduation requirements. Now, essential skills is kind of a hot topic this summer. Essential skills in reading, writing, and math are absolutely still taught and met through the coursework students do. However, based on Senate Bill 744, they are not the students do not have to pass an assessment to demonstrate proficiency to earn a high school diploma for the class of 2022. And 2023 and 2024. And the Oregon Department of Education is evaluating that out of our hands right now. They're going to sort that out for us and let us know. Personalized learning requirements are still being met through their education plan or profile, which is where they forecast for their classes and monitor their progress towards meeting these graduation requirements. Career-related learning evidence, and those are embedded within our CTE classes as well as some of our core classes. And application also of the coursework that they do while they're at the high school. And that coursework can include cooperative work experience and mentorship. So that's that requirement. Hands-on CPR is now part of our health curriculum. And 20 hours of community service for students who attended the Dallas High School all 4 years. If they transfer in, it's 5 hours a year of attendance at the Dallas High School. So we don't make them do more if they've only been with us their senior year. And then the next slide, that was a big one. They're not all that big. The next slide is about teachers of record. So to earn credit, there needs to be a teacher of record who is licensed by the Oregon TSDC and subject matter enforced for that core area. Ratings for those classes are based on student performance in the class, monitored and managed by the teacher, and the report card grade at the end of the trimester that gets added to the student's permanent record, which is managed through their transcript. So what gets sent home on the report card at the end of the trimester is what gets added to the student's transcript.
So as far as grading goes, we go through an A through F scale, which we also have a P grade. A through F is probably familiar with that. It shows what level of proficiency the student demonstrated by on assessments and coursework. And also, in some cases, of course, might be a pass-fail. Sometimes that's designated depending on what the subject matter is, or if the student has special needs and has a set amount of work that they need to do in order to show that they've achieved proficiency. There are alternate ways nowadays to earn credit besides Carnegie units. And these are prescribed by the state of Oregon. Next slide, please. It has to be activities that are related to the curriculum, and some of the things they can earn additional credit if we add to their transcript are college and university classes, such as we have a dual credit program where they are taking classes from our teachers who are also certified to teach college level class, the advanced placement tests that they take throughout the year, and expanded options, which allows them to get a start on their education by going to community college. They can also do pre-approved independent studies, where they come and talk to us about something that they would like to work on. We have to make sure that it matches the curriculum and it's something we can apply. They can do, we have quite a few students right now doing supervised work experiences. A lot of kids have gotten jobs during the pandemic. We're also increasing our mentorship program, where they can learn more about leadership and work. Study abroad program, some students do foreign travel. It hasn't been available recently, but we have had students in the past that come and do their study abroad program. When they get back, we evaluate their transcripts from the country where they were at and award them credit. And then finally, the demonstration of proficiency, either through a testing program. They can test, basically can challenge the material if they feel they know it and take a test, or they can also do a portfolio of their work and present that to us, showing us what it is that they've learned.
The alternative ways to earn credit, that is one of the core policies that Bill mentioned at the beginning. It lines that out. We did an AR change. Recall that we did an administrative rule change earlier. Might have been the summer, where one of the alternative ways is for students, for example, to leave high school early to, or the summer before their senior year, to go and get credit at basic training. So that's just an example of one of those things, but anyway, that is articulated out in our policies.
Okay, so we mentioned this before, kind of the trimester system. Students take 5 classes in the regular school day, which gives them the opportunity to earn 2.5 credits each trimester, 7.5 credits over the course of the school year. They're passing everything, which means that they could conceivably graduate at the end of their 4 years with 30 credits. So it's significantly more than what would be the requirement. We consider a student on track for meeting graduation, and they are earning at least 6 credits each school year. So at the end of their freshman year with 6, sophomore year 12, available to the students and their parents on request. We send them home fairly regularly by their senior year. And it includes all the grades and credits they've earned at every high school they've attended. So they transfer in that information from their former high school is a part of their transcript. It also at this point includes class ranking, term grade point average, as well as cumulative grade point average, and graduation status, which is your current student for graduation status. Graduated, yep, once they graduate, that's it.
We house these for 100, I think it's 99 or 100 years. Long time. High schools are required to maintain. So if you're like me, I wish your high school transcript wasn't held for 99 years. But anyway, that's what we have to do. We have microfiche files and things like that I don't know what the oldest request we've had, but sometimes Google get requests from 50s and 60s.
Charlie picked it up, but she
Yeah, really making.
So that brings us to what happens if a student isn't on track. What happens if they get ahead or they get behind? So the next slide shows what happens when we have stuff like Leanne said, some students will graduate with 30+ credits, even though they only need 24. And it's an opportunity for kids who are very academic to get ahead and get up to 2 years of college out of the way. So they can get college and university classes, they can continue, we encourage them to do things like that. They can do the expanded options program where they can go to the community college and start just taking direct classes from the community college. They can get more credits from work study and choose to do that. Most of these things are done by seniors that are ahead in their credits already. We also encourage additional CTE courses. We had students that we weren't offering welding during most of the shutdown time. They took CTE welding through the college. Some students do choose early release. Most of the time that's work. And we do have several students already this year that have petitioned for early graduation. So they are able to they've done so well and they're so far ahead that they can get it done by the end of their junior year. And almost every year we have a few students who do this. So our other students, the students that are behind in credits, we work really hard to try to keep them caught up. We built into our schedule credit retrieval classes. Last summer we had summer school course. We offered kids the ability to recover as many as 2 credits last summer. We hope to be able to do that again this next summer. Online virtual learning courses through Acellus or other programs. Comprehensive correspondence courses. Not many students do that these days. More used to do that. There are some universities that offer high school level courses, and sometimes students will choose that. Alternate education classes. This is mostly for the students who are behind and they need some flexibility. They can't be at school during the day, or they have a little one perhaps, or they have responsibilities to their families, or they need to make a living. And so we offer that through our alternative program. And then credit by proficiency is one that we've been using a lot in the last year or so, making sure that they can demonstrate to us that they've learned the material, and then we can award them credit for that.
So there are multiple ways we share this information about what it takes to graduate and push it out there. So the Oregon Department of Education website, our school district website, our high school website, through the report cards in the Power School data management system, and the app that's attached. Specific invited speakers and parent meetings, with graduation paperwork reviews, teacher conferences. So once a trimester, that's a chance that I know that as a school counselor, that's the majority of what I talk about when the parent comes in to meet. That I'm teaching that. And so the school counselor, the transcript reviews, and then IEP meetings, so individualized education plan meetings that are really good component about graduation. And so this, well, just a teeny bit more, the academic eligibility for athletes is a little bit different.
Our slide that I gave you in the packet, I added more information to
they are based on OSAA requirements, and where we see incoming sophomore needing 6 credits to be considered on track, OSAA is looking for 4.5 credits. They want to keep those kids engaged in their athletic or extracurricular pursuits while understanding that progress towards graduation is important. So ours is equal 6 a year, and OSAA has a little bit more leniency in that first freshman year, and then they're building in after their freshman year. They would be 5.5 credits, and then between their sophomore to junior year, or sorry, junior and senior year, they need 7 credits to stay on track. So they're looking for more academic success as it goes through. In addition to OSAA, or a part of it, students need to be passing 4 or 5 classes to be athletically or academically eligible for competition, maintaining a 2.0 GPA, and passing 4 or 5 classes in the current season and grade checks take part through the athletic conference. So we're really doing a lot to support our student athletes and our student participants in extracurriculars to recognize their student first and then extracurricular athlete or other second.
And that brings us to the types of diplomas that a student can earn at the end of the 24 credits. The first one is the regular diploma. Most of our students end up with this diploma. But there are a couple other types. These are by Oregon law. There's a modified diploma. That is 24 credits with modifications to the amount of work or the type of work or whatever it may be that fits that student's abilities. There is an extended diploma, which is 12 core credits and 12 elective credits. So it's still a total of 24. No, sorry, just the 12 core classes. And then finally is an alternative certificate. Most of these are special needs students who attend and do their best. And all of those last 3, the modified, extended, and alternative, they all require parental consent. So we work with the parents and we say what things we would like to see the student achieve, where we think that they can reach their maximum potential, and we talk to them before that the student is moved from a regular diploma to one of those. And then finally, also we recognize the students' graduation and throughout their career in high school. There's an honors diploma, a seal of biliteracy for students who can demonstrate that they are bilingual and biliterate. And then there's honor cords and medallions, which are very, very important at graduation. At graduation, you know how important those are. With our valedictorian, salutatorian programs, and career and technical honors have been added the last 5 years. And those are also a new thing that really signifies achievements by the students. So we want to recognize all of our students for the hard work that they put in. It really takes a lot to finish up those 4 years.
The graduation requirement.
Any questions for us from the board?
Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I guess I'll just say thank you. That was super helpful. I know that when Senate Bill 744 hit the media and the articles came out, parents wondering what does that mean to my student. And this is super helpful to understand, if they've got a kid in high school, what does that still look like? And largely, it seems like it's unchanged for the most part.
Yeah, the wording of that essential skills was demonstrate proficiency in English and math, in a variety of settings. And every teacher that we have is qualified by definition to do that. I mean, that's the definition of what a teacher does. So it got a lot of press.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would mention about that is when that was in place, we would have a fair number of seniors that would go into their senior year and need basically, teach the test is kind of what we were having to do to just simply get them to pass one of the tests. So when that fighting went away, and they could just worry about their actual grade in English and their grade in math, and not worry about the stuff. We were able to recover probably half of an FTE of a teacher by not having to offer deal with that, having to basically lowering class sizes and putting kids in regular math, right? So I was glad to see it go away for my parents.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you, everyone. All right, our next report comes, it's the Educational Services Report. Oh, my bad. I missed that. Still the OSAA redistricting classification.
Yeah, how can I miss this?
I know.
So I am involved with, so OSAA is, that's the organizing, that's the body that organizes and manages high school athletics. My connection to OSAA is that to this being high school principal, I actually serve in the delegate assembly. And so I represent the Intermountain Conference and the representative that goes there. I didn't know this till the other day, but Chairman Mauricio is on one of the committees, the redistricting committee, which is going to talk about this process here. So we're involved in OSA here a little bit, but specifically what I'm going to talk to you about is the redistricting process that is going on right now, and what that means for the Dallas High School as we move into the next school year, in the 2023 school year. So just a general overview, Oregon high school athletic leagues are organized into districts based on kind of their size and location. Our league that we're in is the Intermountain Conference, which includes schools down in Redmond, Rhinebeck, Cook County, the river and us. So that's our league, or our district, and those are the schools that we compete with in all sports. In Oregon, there's six different classifications, 1A through 6A. We are 5A, so we are a small 5A school. We're one of the smallest 5A schools in the state of Oregon. OSA and the redistricting committee, they're charged with a lot of things, but probably the two things that people talk about the most, are travel times to other schools, and then competitive balance between schools. Our closest school is Dufur, but we obviously don't play Dufur in athletics. They'll come to track meets and stuff, but they're not a competing team because there's a massive competitive imbalance between us and Dufur. Okay. This redistricting process takes place about every 4 years, and we're really only referring to every sport except for football. Football itself in Oregon is kind of a different animal. It has an ad hoc committee that kind of goes through that process separately. Schools can either in football play up or play down. This year for us, we are playing 5A. We are playing our football team is in the Intermountain Conference, so we're playing our regular teams. It was 2 years ago we were 4A in football. We actually played down. We did really well that year, and so because we did well that year, they put us back up in 5A. Right? So football is a little bit different. So you can play in a regular league like we are right now in football, or you can play, petition play down. So, in this redistricting process, there'll be a final vote on December 13th. So right now, there's proposals that have been put out by people. You can go to the OSA website and see what those are. And but right now, that's the process is there, and then they'll make a decision on the 13th. Go ahead. So I'm sorry you can see that very well. So basically, when OSA figures out our school size, it's called the adjusted base, and all schools get this adjusted base number, and it closely resembles the population of your school, but there are other factors in there, and the biggest factor that plays into there is the free reviews. So in the packet that I think you have this packet, I went ahead and just sort of copied and pasted the computation of the Dallas High School and how we got to 511. So that's our adjusted base that we have. And so what they start with is our enrollment from grades 9 through 11. We don't count seniors in the enrollment because we have seniors that will graduate early or drop out. And so the enrollment is they count as 9-11. So you got the first column there is a 3-year average. Then the next two columns are the options schools, like the alternative schools, and then the students from other districts play. So then they factor that So you get your total base there, and then what you do is you factor in your free reduced. So what we're doing there is we're taking like that top row, 616, and we're multiplying that by the free reduced number in that row. And then what you do with that number is you multiply that by a factor of 0.4, 40%, and you subtract that. And so you get that adjusted base there in the right, in that far right column for 3 years, and then they average that out. So that puts us at 511. And again, of all the 5A schools in the state, we're kind of at the bottom on size bumps. Okay? So if you really want the algebra equation at calculus in it, you have to work it out. Okay, go to the next one. All right, so right now in the process, and again, Chairman Aparicio is part of this process, but the committee, the redistricting committee, there's right now on the table, go to the website, you can see there are 5 proposals statewide for us. And there's a few proposals that are on there from individual schools or individual members, but really there's 5 proposals. There's 3 of those proposals statewide are proposing to retain 6 classifications statewide. And then there's 2 of the proposals actually are putting it into a 5 classification system, actually, dividing every up into just 5 groups, okay? And then that's a few come from the public. And that website, we don't need to go there today, but you can go on there if you want to look and see what all the other proposals are, you can see that. But all the proposals, the 6 classification proposal and then the 5 classification proposals, there's really 2 scenarios that the Dallas is most likely going to fall into. Okay, so next one. So in the 6 classification proposals, it puts us at 4A, and we would go again, which means we would be the 3rd largest. And we would be a large 4A school. You can see in that first column. And it proposes that we would go into the league with those other schools there, SDK, Gladstone, South Adams. Okay, that's referred to as the Tri-Valley. That's actually the old Tri-Valley that the Dallas used to be in. So all the 6 class proposals that are on the table right now, the 3, have us with a mixture of those different schools. And so I kind of just did some averages there. The first column is the adjusted basis. So the average size is 461. Or 511, so we'd be a larger school in that league. And then I did the drive times, kind of the average those out. I kind of added 10% because, Yellowhounds, they kind of go a little bit slower, and just did, 2 o'clock drive on Google Maps. And those are what I came up with as far as drive times to those places. There is an error on there, though. Park Rose, it's not 2 hours and 13 minutes away. It's only about an hour and a half. Park Rose High School is just right at 120 seconds. So that's shouldn't say 2 hours and 13 minutes. So anyway, the average drive time is about an hour and 45 minutes to all of those schools. If you just kind of get it an average out. Almost all those schools are going to the west. The exception of Madras is you're going south. Okay? So that's one proposal, or there's 3 proposals, and they're all pretty close to that scenario. We would be a large 4A school with the Tri-Valley. Over on the right side, there's on the 5 class proposals, it has us basically retained with the Intermountain Conference. It has us with Crook County, Pendleton, Redmond, Ridgeview, which are the current schools that we have. It also adds in the Brand and Madras. In that league, we would be one of the smaller schools. We'd be below the average. And then you can see on the right side, there's all of the drive times. Its averages probably about 2 hours and 20 minutes drive time, with a maximum distance would be going to LeGrand, which is about 3 hours. And over on the other side, the max distance is just a little over 2 hours in the Tri-Valley schools. I don't, on paper, I guess the preference on paper, it makes sense for us to probably be in that 6 classification model where we're 4A. My heart likes being in the IMC. I have relationships with those schools. We all, work well together. So I still like being in the IMC. So for my chair, it's either of those 2 proposals are chosen. I'm really okay either way. There's really no bad proposal for my chair that is there. Kind of the worst case scenario for us is that they would have put us, going to Baker City, Ontario, or something like that, and not. So anyway, I guess for my chair, I'm really fine with either one. It's not going to make that big of a difference on either of those schools. You can also, there's some traffic days getting down to Malala or Marion, it's going to take you 3 hours, so it's kind of split hairs. But either way, I'm good with it. I feel like we still compete really well in the 5A class. You've heard our, kind of our athletic records. We didn't do great in football this year. We won district in cross country, second in girls cross country, and did really well in soccer. So I feel like we compete well at our current league, but I feel like if we went to 4A, we'd probably be a lot more competitive against those schools. So that's all I had. I don't know if there's any questions, or Chairman Crucio, if you want to add anything, you're welcome to from your perspective of what you've done.
The only thing I'll add is, how I stumbled upon getting on the committee is, I was approached by an Oregon School Board Association, so I'm actually filling the role of OSBA representative on that committee. And so, in terms of the process, we have 2 more meetings, one this upcoming Monday, another one later, and then that recommendation will come from that committee that I sit on to the executive board for that December vote. And then at that point, it'll be final for the next 4-year block, so 23 through 26.
It's most likely football will be, if we go to Tri-Valley, it's going to be football will go with us. It's not going to be proposed that our football team play down at 3A. We're not going to petition that. We're certainly not going to petition to play for 5A. So we would most likely football would just go with this. And in both these proposals, it has our emphasis to the west, the river has been removed. So we'll still probably play the river and out in non-league games, but they're a much larger school than we are. Just bodies in the building, they're 1,200 or even. So they're much larger school than we are, and I feel it's appropriate for them to not be in our team. So. And they want to go forward too. They want to be. I know that's a lot of conversations with them, maybe the trend, and a lot of they want to be in the Portland districts anyway. Okay, any questions? Any questions about this?
Director Stevens?
You say you're representing the IMC in this vote? Is that right?
Well, I'm the delegate. I don't know. I don't think I literally vote on it. I think the committee votes on it. I go down and I give a recommendation, I think, and the delegates discuss it. But I've not personally gone through the process as a delegate. So I don't think my vote is literally what I vote. So I don't entirely, I cast a vote, I get discussion, but I don't know, I think it's the executive board that actually makes the final call.
I was curious if you're there representing the IMC or the Dallas High School.
I've gone as representing the IMC. I went to the last meeting, we petitioned to retaining an IMC as a 5 class. But, like I said, if we went to this classification, I'm not going to speak. If we went to the old Tri-Valley, I'm not going to speak for it.
Yeah, for me, I've been fortunate enough to look at this since it was first presented a couple months ago. And I did a lot of the same calculations you did, and they're very similar. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Having been a coach at 2 different schools, including the Dallas High School, and speaking to coaches this year, so far there's a clear-cut favorite. If we did have a vote, if you estimated Gladstone, et cetera, football and all other sports minus cross-country and cheer, this would be a much more competitive league. It'd be the first time since the 2 school districts combined that we would actually be one of the larger schools in addition than one of the smaller ones. So going forward, for me, it's not splitting hairs. There's a clear-cut favorite and one that we'd rather not be.
Yeah, some of the argument to stay in a more competitive league is just that, to be around more, competitive, better competition. So that would be where I don't. I guess I don't want to. My chair for my vote as a delegate, I guess I still want to hear hear more information. I'm certainly not deciding that or any of this. Just involved in the process.
Thank you for answering that. I just didn't understand if you had to represent the IMC before and you could represent Dallas High School. As a board, that would be obvious. So we're very good to represent Dallas High School.
All right, looks like Director Thistlethwaite.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was having trouble hearing there, but I'm wondering, is Kurt going to make a recommendation, even though they may not even listen to you, or are you just going to be neutral?
Well, my stance, it's a little conflicting stance, because my stance as a delegate as the IMC is we've agreed as the IMC that we want to retain that. And so I've supported the drive comes from really, I mean, I'm good with saying that I like Madras and these other schools to get in the, Mike Somnus and I went down, we gave testimony to support retention of that. The biggest concern for the resident schools don't want to go to band. That's the biggest concern. But even with that said, I think that they're probably going to go to Bentley anyway. So I don't know that it's going to happen, to be honest. I mean, I'll go down and we'll weigh in and support the retention of the IMC, but most likely it's going to go to the other way. But that's just my delegate out. So.
All right, any other questions, comments? Mr. Evans? All right, thank you for the update. All right, now we'll shift over to our educational services report. That'll be Director Whitbeck and Mr. Nelson.
Good evening, Board Director, Superintendent. Happy to be here to share some information about what our educational services department's been up to. The topics I'll be presenting on tonight are our virtual learning program adoption, which a lot of you will know about already. Our virtual academy that Nick Nelson will share about, how that's rolling. Our upcoming, we're planning for our afternoon academy, the after school program. And also they're planning to put together for kids who are out of quarantine for COVID. And also introducing, our, not in person, but our program that our instructional coaches are doing. Okay, so for the program adoption, you might know that last year, when we suddenly found ourselves in the need for a virtual program for kids, it was selected fairly quickly without a formal process because we just needed to get something for them quickly. And this year we had more opportunity to go a regular process to look objectively at these different programs to see which one would serve our kids the best. So we had a team of 5 in different types of positions in the district, reviewing 3 online programs that were all highly regarded, SELUS, Florida Virtual School, and Connections Academy. And here you see our review team we had. Principal Rendell at Chenoweth and their new dean of students, who used to be their EL teacher, so a couple angles of perspective. Phil Williams was on, and Nick Nelson was on, as a former district administrator, and myself. So we used a set of established objective criteria to look at all the programs, so we took our personal bias out of it as much as we could. And so there it shows you the indicators we looked at for each of the programs, the cost, how easily it was to use, the technical support that the company offered, the data that would be available to teachers to adjust the program for the kids, the product quality, and the familiarity of how to use the tech. And it turns out in each of the program, or the reviewers, we all did this review independently, and our scores came out that each of us picked a SELUS as by quite a ways. So that was our, that's our adoption process. That's part of the recommendation for this evening. And as far as length of time for adoption, based on the ODE's guidance, they say the adoption processes are good for 6 years, but we don't need to notify them of another one the next time. So we're good for a while on this one. And the next slide is actually a repeat now. Okay, so Virtual Academy, Mr. Nelson, would you come up and join me? Yes, everybody does.
permission to take my back off. Good evening, Superintendent Bernal and Board Chair Aparicio and directors. I want to echo what Shannon Saldivar said previously, and that is a big, huge thank you for handling unprecedented challenges in unprecedented and high-pressure times with grace and transparency. So I want to speak that to you as a board, because I know that probably in your position you're vulnerable or getting things from all angles and all sides, but I want to speak that to you, that you guys are handling it with grace and transparency, and much appreciated on my part. I also want to give a big thank you to HR Director Schimmel with his effort in recruiting and hiring 2 highly credentialed staff members for the Acellus program. I feel very, very confident that we're going to be able to handle the job this year for however long we're in it. Right now, I'm functioning as the administrative support person for Acellus. I'm also the Avid District Director, which in the future I'd like to sit down and have some of your time to discuss Avid as a school, school-wide at the middle school and high school option for students. A little bit of a bio. Our 2 teachers provide a Power Pack team. They're married. And it's Tim Chance and Mercedes Chance. Tim taught for 3.5 years at Colonel Wright, and then 3.5 years at Wyest Middle School and the Dalles Middle School, multiple levels. He has an advanced math certificate. He is certified in, he has a BS in economics, sociology with a concentration in banking and finance and environmental economics. So he's working with the 6th through 8th grade students, and I feel very, very confident in his capabilities and credentials. His wife, Mercedes, she's a graduate of the Dallas High School. She attended Southern Oregon University. She started District 21 as a SPED assistant, and also worked during that time period on her teaching license endorsement and ESOL through George Fox University. She also did some coaching. She's handling the K-5 students. Mercedes taught at Colonel Wright previously, K-4, grades K through 4, also summer school, grade 5. Last year, Mercedes taught at Hood River School District, the Acellus program at the 2nd grade level. And in my interviewing with them and talking with them the last couple of days, they're both extremely happy to be back in the Dalles, back at home, and excited to be a part of the Virtual Academy program. Is it possible for you to enlarge that screen more, please? There we go. Do you all see that? Okay, so last spring, well, first of all, back up a little bit. It was about 7 or 8 years ago, we had a presentation at the ESD level as far as the Acellus program as an alternative curriculum and alternative support opportunity for students that were in credit jeopardy. And so we started Acellus, Kurt and I started Acellus, I think it was in 2015 or 2016. Yeah, with the ALC. So we have some pretty good experience with the program. We've been running it since that time. And then last spring, previous superintendent Peters called me up and asked me to ride herd on creating a K-12 program with the Acellus program. So we did. And we basically were a MASH unit. We came in with about 2.5 weeks and set up a full-blown school, K through 12. And it was a little bumpy at first, but we got things worked out. We were working with and serving
between 400 and 430 students last year, K-12. And the high school part of the program, I think, was really successful in the sense that the number of credits that the students were able to recapture, plus it gave them some good momentum going into the summer school that the high school offered, and earning credits that they were deficit in. So that was great. Right now we're sitting at some numbers. We're sitting at 52 students, K-5, 35 students, 6 through 8, for a total of 87. We just added another student yesterday, so I didn't put that other student in this number. 27, that has been toned down to 23 students with students that are on IEPs. And we have a service package plan with, that was coordinated with the development by Amy Hampton and Ann Berinsky and Jen Weller. Ann and Jen are providing the specially designed instruction for those students. We have 13 ELL students. We have 13 ELL students, 3 at the middle school level and 10 at the elementary K-5 level. One administrator, I'm not full-time, but one administrator, and then the 2 core instructional teachers, and then we have 1 special ed teacher that Director Hampton provided for us. A big difference between last spring and now is that the support services for SPED and the support services for ELL were pushed out from the resident school. This fall, the services are being handled by in-house, essentially, by Acellus staff. So we've got Mercedes, who is ESL endorsed, and she's the teacher of record, and she's working with Tim as far as specially designed instruction for ELL. And then Ann Berinsky, she's providing support as a teacher of record. She is primarily responsible and providing oversight for especially designed instruction. And Jen Weller, who is the assistant, she's helping meet with those kids and providing that information and service to them. Let's see. Okay, so let's go to the next screen, please. So the EL services are provided by the Acellus teacher with ESL endorsement and check-ins from EL teachers. Families, when we recruited or when they requested services through Acellus, they had to give us a commitment of at least 1 trimester. We're going to find out, we're going to send out a survey probably in another week or so, find out how many of those parents are going to be re-upping or renewing for trimester 2. So we'll have a pretty good idea, hopefully, if the survey response is adequately participated with by parents. Teachers are using our Acellus teachers. There's basically 2 parts of the Acellus program, or the online program. One is the curriculum program provided by the Acellus itself, which is self-contained. And I think if there's any questions, we can address those a little bit. But anytime you want to interrupt me, go ahead, don't hesitate. If there's a question on your mind, we can take care of it right now. But the Acellus provides the backbone or the meat part of the curriculum for the students K-8. And that's primarily in core subjects, math, science, social studies, and language arts. We have the capability and the flexibility to adjust the rigor of those courses based on previous teacher input, administrative input, so we can set the rigor higher or set the rigor pretty much at grade level or reduce that rigor for each class. So we have that capability. We also have the capability of assigning students at a different grade level. Let's say they might be at grade 7 or grade 6 grade, but they're not functioning at that level as far as math or science or social studies or language arts. We can put them at the appropriate proficiency level for them to be successful with. One key thing about the Acellus program itself is the feature called vector instruction. So if I'm a student and I hit a concept and I don't have a clue what that concept is all about,
the system automatically reroutes me into a side track, if you will, of videos and of instruction that helps me beef up those weak areas, and then it reroutes me back into the mainstream for that core, and then I can take a quiz again, and if I pass the quiz, I can move on. There's students can cycle through that looping system multiple times until they get the concept nailed. We also are using supplemental direct instruction. Supplemental direct instruction, we're using MobiMax, Haggerty, Wonders, Extra Math, Imagine Learning, and those are focusing in on math and language arts. Can you go to the next screen, please? Okay, so the teachers are utilizing the following for meetings with students on their caseloads. Individually, there's a one-to-one weekly instructional appointments K through 5 on an AB schedule. We've got 50-some kids, so it's very difficult to get everybody in a week, so we have half of them come in on 1 week, A week, and then the other half come in on B week, and they meet individually with their teacher. The K-5 teacher also has, Mercedes also has 2 grade level meetings per week that she meets with, let's say, all the first graders at 9 to 9:30, district-wide. All the second graders from 9:30 to 10, district-wide. And so she's able to provide individual instruction as well as group instruction. I'll back up a step on Acellus. The other fantastic feature about Acellus is that it provides a live monitoring situation. That means that the teachers are able to get a message from Acellus saying that a student is struggling with a concept, or a student is guessing, or a student did not pass a quiz and needs to be rerouted into the vectored instruction. So that teacher then can establish a contact with that student almost in real time to try to address the problem, to get some reinforcement for that student and support. That's at the K-5 level. At the 6-8 level, pretty much the same thing, except for we're not running an AB schedule because we have fewer kids. Tim is able to meet with all of his kids individually on a weekly basis, and then he's also doing math and ELA by group, by grade level. So they're getting a good double dose. There's a daily TAT time built in for any student who wants to come in at either Tim or Mercedes TAT time. They can log in and get additional support that way. And then I mentioned the live real-time monitoring and intervention. Could you go to the next slide, please? Here's some basic metric numbers here, broken down by school. Last year we used these 4 same metric points. Problem summary for the lesson, and unit exams, and attendance summary, and a GPA. So it's broken down into those 4 data areas so that we can kind of monitor progress. This was taken, this sample was taken late last week, I believe. And so we can, if we see a school that's dipping in a certain area, let's say attendance, we can address that. If we see a school that's dipping in unit exam averages, we can address that. Okay, next slide, please. That might be it. Yeah, okay. Take questions or comments.
Any comments or questions? No. I want to publicly thank Nick. I feel really happy and I guess relieved from my position that we have somebody who is an experienced and successful school administrator who is willing to come in and just take on the program and without needing any assistance, just gets it rolling and makes it very successful. Great connection with the teachers who are new to the system and organizing and keeping things rolling. So thanks for doing such a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I should have asked earlier, but can you understand me well with the mask on, or should I have a? Is this all right? Okay. So for our afternoon academy, this is a quick review of what we're looking at as our planning for this. This is something funded by a 21st Century Community Learning Center. It's a grant that was procured by the ESD, and its focus is specifically on grades 2 through 5 as part of the requirements of the program. And it's fairly broad, comprehensive services. It's mostly academic support. The assistants would be there to help with instruction. It's almost like a homework support or reteaching, but they also get a chance to do some online work with some of our individualized software programs. They also have time for physical games and fitness and some free choice activities, just for those kids who just want a nice quiet nook to read for a while. There's a lot of different choices. So that's what the program will look like when we finally get it rolling. Our staffing goal is to have each of our 3 elementaries to have a site coordinator who manages the program, designs the lesson plans, and supports the ones working directly with the kids, and then having 2 instructional assistants at each school. And we would have between 20 and 30 kids at each of the sites, and 1 program director who would oversee all 3 sites. So on the next slide, I think I went a little ahead of you there. Keep going to the one that says staffing realities. One more. Thank you. So, yeah, this is a challenge because we have no applicants. It's been posted for about a month. We had one, and then a person realized it didn't quite work schedule-wise, so we are trying to look at creative recruiting to find people to apply, but it's a challenge because the time the program starts is right after kids are out, and our teachers and EAs in the schools are still on the clock until another 50 minutes after that. So it's challenging. So I'm working with the migrant program and Lucille Begay with the Native American program to see if there's a way we can bring it together and use ourselves as the directors to also help staff it, because anything we want to get kids service. So we're looking at what we can do. Right now it's been a bit of a challenge. So once we get enough people to actually start it, our plan would be to start our first program at Chenoweth. That's based on criteria. That's where we have a greater percentage of students who meet the criteria. So we will, we're working on that, and that's where we'll start off, hopefully in November. And then once we have enough staff to add on, we'll expand to the other 2 schools. The next item, I have quarantine plan. Next slide. A couple elements to the plan we considered. We wanted to make sure there was an element that for kids who need to be out, that they could feel like they're keeping up with their peers in class. So one element is, just like we maybe had when we were kids too, the teachers would provide as much as you can provide by paper, sitting at home, to do keeping up with the work. We know that some subjects, especially high school, like welding, you can't do a packet, you send welding at home. But whatever you can send home, we will do. And the teachers and staff work with parents or the kids who are going to be out and just ask, can you come to pick up some materials, and I'll have things ready for them. Then we also look at independent work, and one of our programs we're using more and more, MobiMax, is a really great site. It does adaptive activities for students that are designed to be right at their instructional level. So they're just right level, not too easy, not too hard. It adapts based on how they show they're proficient in the skills. So that's something kids can really get ahead in. If they are behind, it can help them catch up, and once they get on a roll, and even the kids who already are doing well, that helps them, they're not stymied, they can move ahead and really accelerate. That's another option to personalize the learning. Also, teachers and counselors and principals do check-ins with the families just to see how they're doing. We know that we're trying to address not just the academics, but also the social emotional part. We know this is a stressful time for families and kids, and We don't want them to feel that we forgot about them. So that's what we're doing for that program. Next is our teacher support through coaching. We are really happy to be getting, we have added 2 fantastic instructional coaches to our team. I said, adding those 2 people, that tripled my department size. So I was really happy to get 2 people on. They happen to be fantastic. One is Katie Ortega, has been a very successful teacher in the district for years, and she taught in summer school, so I got to see her in action then. Fantastic. The other one, Jen Engler, comes from the Baltimore area. She was a classroom teacher, but also EL teacher, and speaks Spanish. She also has been an instructional coach in all subjects. So together they are really a fantastic team. And this is just kind of the phases that we're doing. We're excited to get rolling with helping teachers look at refining their instructional practice. But we also want to be cognizant of the teachers. It's a very stressful time and teachers are auto overload. So we're thinking to phase this in rather than going in full blast. We're just saying right now our plan is that we're looking at where teachers are ready and interested in having someone come in to work with them coaching. So a couple, especially at Chenoweth, have a number of teachers, especially we have 3, I think all 3 second grade teachers are new, either first year or second year. So they're starting with them. And looking at things like small groups, how do you differentiate? Your teachers hear a lot about expectations to differentiate, but sometimes people aren't sure what that means. Sometimes it just means while you have a group of kids going on the independent work, you work with one group who needs a little beefing up in something. So helping design how that looks with some coaching and some examples, demonstration lessons, then I think we can see teachers feel really good about how that looks and how kids are being serviced. Then phase 2. We don't know exactly what that is, but it's natural occur. The coaches will also be doing some modeling and demonstration lessons for teachers who are interested, and arranging some sub-coverage so that they can observe each other. For example, one of our teachers at Dry Hollow, Melissa Hollister, is really well known for an overall fantastic teacher, but especially she's really good with the small groups and making them meaningful. So we have some teachers from Chenoweth who are going to observe how Melissa does it. So it's looking for a specific instructional practice. So that's what we're looking at. Then the phase 3 will be developing a system for teachers observing and learning more from each other, and looking at even the idea of maybe like allowed classrooms in different schools, maybe a couple per school, where teachers are willing to say let people come and watch their practice and really work with them refining certain practices, and then other people can come in and watch that specifically and then get some coaching of how to use that in their classroom. So the coaching staffing is brand new to the district. We've been no instructional coaches before, so it's exciting that we get to kind of invent what is going to work best for our teachers and for our kids. Okay, and that is it for my mini part presentation. Any questions?
So what is the ratio of coaches to the number of teachers that are getting support? So you have 2 coaches, and how many teachers are getting support?
Right now, there's altogether maybe 12 to 15, 12, including teachers who are doing demonstrations and those who are getting coaching themselves. So it's multiple, it's frequently. So they have a chance to kind of repeat and practice and get coaching how they're trying some skills.
So do the coaches split that so that they're seeing the same teachers, or they're assigned?
It's like, to get more service, it's usually they split and they're not doing the same class at the same time. But sometimes one might go in, they go together, so one might cover for a teacher so she can co-watch the demonstration teacher, and then they debrief together. So sometimes it looks like that. So it depends. It's very tailored to what the teachers are ready to learn and work on.
Part of the program really valuable. Having been a teacher, so new teachers really need that support. And old days they didn't really get that. So that makes a big difference for the rest of their career. So that's a cool element of the program.
Yeah, those of us knew. I remember back my first day of teaching that the principal escorted me in the room. I remember the kids came in. I was looking kind of nervous, and she said, "Good luck," and shut the door. I didn't see her for a while after that. So we want to make sure our teachers get a lot of support, so they want to stay in the profession. Other directors, any questions? Well, thank you. Thank you for all your support for our academic program. We're just keep it all moving ahead.
All right. Thank you for that. Super awesome to see all those various programs for our students in the district. What we do have, as part of this report, we have an action item, and that is the approval and adoption of the Virtual Academy program curriculum. Any discussion around that, or if not, I'll entertain a motion.
You want a motion? So I'll move to approve and adopt the recommended Virtual Academy program curriculum, Excellus as presented.
Second.
All right. So the motion by Director Nelson to approve and adopt the recommended Virtual Academy program curriculum, Excellus as presented, and second by Director Jones. Any discussion? Seeing none, move to a vote. All those in favor of approving and adopting the recommended Virtual Academy program curriculum, Excellus as presented, please raise your hand and say aye. Chair votes aye. It's unanimous. So the motion passes. All right, our next report is our communications report. Ms. Bowen.
Hello and good evening. Thank you for having me. I'll try to keep this as short and sweet as possible for everyone. I just wanted to give you all a quick overview of what was my very first month with North Wasco County School District, and it has been a great month. So a few odds and ends as I get started here. The first thing is our COVID-19 dashboard, which is up and live on the North Wasco County School District page. This is updated every Monday afternoon. This week we released a testing video about COVID testing. The purpose of this video is to give parents a little bit more context as to what that school testing process looks like, how it looks for students, why we're doing that testing, and just dispel some of those fears and misconceptions around what that testing looks like in our schools. In the social media world, our presence on Facebook is up by 196% this month, which is exciting. And then in the staff communications world, we have started some additional communications in the form of a weekly newsletter just to help inform staff about happenings, highlights, due dates, and other important information to pass on to our D21 staff. All that being said, my primary focus over this last month has been our website. I'm not sure I need to really go into why it's needed because I think it's obvious that it's like best practice for website refresh is about every 3 years, and that's just for a refresh, if not a complete redesign of a website. Patching up pages only goes so far as things continue to deteriorate, links get broken over time, formatting becomes all just over websites. We have multiple people that make these changes, administrators, teachers change, and time marches on. Additionally, refreshes is needed to achieve and maintain and improve compliance in the world of ADA. And bottom line is our school website is kind of our face on the interweb, if you will, and it's the first impression that a lot of people have for us. It's not only for staff and for parents, but for those who are looking to come here that are prospective students and prospective staff. And communication as a whole has changed. Over the last decade, we have gone from a paper and envelope type world to a digital heavy world, which is why we just need to look at how we are pushing out our information. So where we are, I think you all hopefully are kind of aware of what our district website looks like right now. Our website was last updated in September of 2010. So keep in mind, bringing back that 3 years that we talked about in the last slide, to give you some perspective, if our website was a student in our district, they would be in middle school this year. In 2015, the CMS that we had contracted with SchoolWires was acquired by Blackboard. So this means that we aren't even contracted with the originating platform that we chose. After this change, it appeared that there was a significant breakdown in essential areas, and one of those was tech support. Our custom template that we spent extra money to purchase became broken and obsolete. I think we can all see there's some broken images just on our main page here. One of those reasons is because Adobe Flash is no longer supported. We currently have 1,704 pages associated with our D21 website that we need to look at and update. So where we are going. So this is just an example and not the exact website that we are moving towards. I just wanted to clarify that. But we do need to look at bringing in our page to the 21st century, just aesthetically, ease of site use and navigation. We need to make sure information is accessible by 1 or 2 clicks. We need to create congruency across our pages. I'm sure that you guys have all noticed that when you go to the district page and you start clicking on different schools, it starts looking and feeling very different to everyone. So we want to look like a cohesive district and move forward on a front as far as what our district website looks like. Also, mentioning again, we need to increase our accessibility as far as ADA, translation, and maintaining plain language across all of our pages. So moving forward, what I have done over the last month, I started looking at different CMS platforms that we could move to, started with a whole plethora of options, narrowed it down to about the top 4, and then did a comparison with cost, added features, ease of use, tech support, all that good stuff. We've since narrowed it down to our top 2 choices and are currently getting pros and cons, some feedback from our staff and those who might use our website frequently. Tomorrow we're meeting with a smaller group to look at our top 2 options and really nail them down and see what might fit best for our district. And then hopefully we can get moving forward with some of that spring cleaning that I was talking about.
Right, any questions, comments?
I think the dashboard is awesome.
Well, thank you.
I mean, for parents, board, and community members, anyone who can go on and see how we stand in terms of our protection with kids in the COVID times. I don't see that in very many districts, and so I think we stand out in that regard. And I'm really proud of your work on that dashboard. Thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions?
Well, I just wanted to say how I've noticed immediately the improvement in our social media and what a great job you're doing there and just presenting all the fantastic things going on in the district and highlighting different personnel, seeing Dr. Bernal ride the school bus, all of that fun stuff. It's really great. So thank you.
One thing I add to that reminded me of too is we also added TDHS Athletics Facebook page and Instagram too. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out.
So
I'll jump in too. I'd like to echo what Rebecca's saying. It's Steph, you're doing a great job, and it wasn't a matter of will of us communicating. It was just a matter of bandwidth. And having a dedicated staff person that can add continuity and consistency and be creative and timely, you're doing everything we needed to have done. And I really super appreciate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All I do the same. I mean, I've seen the difference in the last month, which is great. As a parent, not only do I get, the administrators in the room are doing a lot with things like reminding everything, and there's just a lot more, which I think is what we've been hearing from the community. So it's great to be able to see that we're kind of being able to fill that request that had been out there for a while. So Thank you for all your hard work, even in just this quick month that you've been here.
It's been a good month. Thank you.
All right, our next report is our superintendent's report. Dr. Bernal.
Thank you. So first we'll talk a little bit about just the Division 22 standards, which tonight you'll just need to accept the report as presented. I'd like to read a little bit about what Division 22 standards are. Each year, districts report to their community on their compliance with all Division 22 standards for public elementary and secondary schools by making a presentation to the local school board as set forth in OAR 581-022-2305, which is titled District Assurances of Compliance with Public School Standards. After districts have made the report at the local level, they then submit their assurances to the Oregon Department of Education. This is an annual practice and is one way we publicly commit to providing a high-quality educational experience for students in our care. It provides an opportunity for school districts to demonstrate compliance with rigorous standards, reflect on areas in need of attention and alignment, and plan for how to address them. As part of our shared responsibility to provide quality service for our students and communities, this system promotes reciprocal accountability between school districts and the Oregon Department of Education. So there's a couple requirements. So by November 1st, 2021, school district superintendents report to their local school board the district's compliance or non-compliance with all Division 22 standards in effect for the 2021 school year. And also by November 1st, school districts are required to post the community public school standards to their websites. And then by November 15th, school districts have to complete and submit the annual online ODE Division 22 Standards Assurance Form, which we were already provided with, and that's what this report is in your packet tonight. By completing the assurances process, school districts are certifying first that the school district presented its annual report on compliance with public school standards to the local school board in an oral presentation at an open public meeting by November 1st, 2021, and that the school board acknowledged receipt of the report. Second, that the school district posted its annual report on compliance with public school standards on the school district's website by November 1st, 2021. And third, that the district indicated its compliance status for each of the Division 22 standards in effect for the 2021 school year by November 15th, 2021. I'm very happy to say that for the 2021 school year, North Wasco County School District is in compliance with all of the assurances, which I believe is remarkable and a testament to your staff, our staff that we have that worked really hard last year to ensure that even in the midst of a pandemic and being not even in person, they were able to accomplish and meet all of these assurances. So tonight we just ask that you accept this report, noting that we are in compliance. We do not have any items not in compliance, and we will move forward with posting that report by November 1st and then submitting it to the ODE.
All right, with that, any comments, questions for Dr. Bernal? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the District 22 standards and assurances for the 2020 to 2021 school year as presented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Director Rasmussen to approve the report on Division 22 standards and assurances for the 2020-2021 school year as presented. Any discussion? All right, if not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving the motion, please raise your hand and say aye. The chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. We'll continue with Dr. Bernal and her reopening schools update.
And I will just be brief. I just have a couple things to share with you tonight. We are finishing our 9th week of reopening schools, and to date, we have had to transition only 5 classrooms to temporary distance learning due to positive cases and number of students requiring quarantine. But overall, that is a fairly low number considering the number of students we have attending full-time in-person learning. I'm really happy and proud to say and thank you to both our district and union bargaining teams who worked diligently together to come to an agreement that allowed for paid time for instructional staff to prepare their online learning platforms. so that in the event the district needs to transition an individual classroom, a pod of classrooms, an entire school, or the entire district to comprehensive distance learning, the transition can easily happen with no long delays, and students are not losing learning time in that transition period. So thank you very much to the bargaining teams for coming to that agreement. Overall, positive COVID cases and number of student staff quarantined in schools are trending downward, and I'll just knock on wood that we can continue that trend. I'm greatly appreciative to our staff for their hard work these past months, helping to ensure our doors can stay open, and equally appreciative to our families for also supporting the district in these endeavors. This week we have had several events related to homecoming going on at the high school that will culminate with a dance this Saturday night, and I know the kids are really excited, and I'm excited for them because it's just a glimmer of getting back to some kind of normalcy for them. So I'm excited that they get to do that this week. And we've also had several fall harvest activities going on in our elementary and middle schools this few past weeks, and it's really just been great as I've visited the schools and been reading the highlights, and Stephanie's been doing a great job of highlighting all the positive going on. I'm just grateful to see our students being able to get back to some kind of normalcy, even though we're still in the middle of a pandemic. So again, I'm just super appreciative to our staff and everyone who's working hard to ensure that our doors can remain open for our kids for full-time in-person learning. So thank you.
Right, any questions from the board? Dr. Brunel? Dr. Thistlethwaite?
I just have one question. What is the required quarantine time for classrooms if there is, one kid or a couple kids who get it?
So it really depends on the exposure, the day they were exposed, and how long that exposure, how many days have passed since that exposure. So for example, in the cases of our classrooms that have had to close and transition to distance learning, some of those only had to transition for a few days of distance learning, and some had to transition for an entire week. So, and we do get to count the Saturdays and Sundays in our periods of quarantine. So the longest we've had to transition an entire class was a week. So, but it's really dependent on the exposure date.
Okay.
Every situation and scenario is unique unto itself.
When the kids are at home, do those still count as student contact days, even if they aren't doing anything and aren't online at all?
Yes, they still count as school days. We don't have any days where they're not learning, even in the transition days. So when we're transitioning a class, usually there's about a 1-day lag because we need to ensure all the kids have their materials, their laptops, their hotspots in order to get up with distance learning. But on the down day where we're transitioning them, they're working on like packet work. We call it asynchronous time work. So it's not a lost day. Does that make sense?
Right, any other questions? All right, let's see, I've been watching the clock, so it is 8 o'clock, so I want to check in with the board. We still got a number of items on the agenda if we want to continue, and then my other question is, do we want to take a quick break to stretch or use restroom or anything? Yep. Is everyone good with moving forward through the rest of the agenda? All right, we will take a 5-minute break and resume the meeting at 8:05.
we'll continue with the meeting. And next on the agenda in terms of reports is our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Carol Flav.
Hi, can you hear me okay? So of course I do have your financial report included in your packet. I'll give you a few highlights for the sake of time. In the actual documents itself, I included, there's one change, I included the student body funds. They're technically not district funds. You don't want to say really nerdy things, but it's one classification thing a few years ago, so I think it should just be included for reporting purposes. It's not, it's like, it's funds held on behalf of students, so it's not under the district's ability to spend. So it's just for reporting purposes only. It does actually end up budgeted, and so it is something you should just have a view of. So I've included that. These particular numbers I didn't include last year, fiscal 2021. It's very little changes from last year. We're getting into the audit, and as you know, we have to have that finished by the end of December. So we're working through that. So I gave you a quick purview of the ending fund balances. Again, don't let state special revenue and nutrition services, the brackets are technically negatives, but the state hasn't opened some of their grant fundings to ask for reimbursement. So these sub-accounts are still within the district's funds, so it's never negative. It's just for the sake of reimbursement. We are always behind. I included on the next page just a quick view of the same information that I've included before for the ESSER 2 and 3 funds. Just to recap, we spent all of ESSER 1 last fiscal year. This one's, you'll see there's a couple of red highlighted items. There are ones that are again in board motions later on, so I'm proposing those changes. On page 3 is a tentative, and I keep telling people this is a plan that's going to flow through and change. It's kind of a working document. It's the Sr3 Plan, which is required through the American Rescue Plan. It's required to be submitted to ODE, which it was. The two outcomes on the top are actually statewide outcomes. Those were put on by Oregon Department of Education, so they have all the school districts start with these two outcomes. The strategies are what we developed tentatively based on what we are currently using the funds for, which isn't a lot, but there's few. And it also has to include Mosher. So you'll see that strategy number 5 below is specific to Mosher. That was on their plan and their request. So the strategy is essentially, it's to provide us the flexibility if we did need funding for student technology and wireless, any of the Wi-Fi or technology needs is strategy number 1, long story short. Number 2, that is one area we have spent money is in the summer learning and enrichment activities. We spent 25% of the summer learning grants in ESSER 3 because it's part of the 20%, it's learning loss, but Oregon's calling it unfinished learning. So it's kind of part to meet that goal. Health and safety, providing students with safe, healthy, clean, COVID response ready conditions. That will also help. Mosher's planning on doing some heating and cooling renovations in one of their buildings. But we also have some of the requests that you'll see later will be some of those, and it's areas for eating and cafeteria items. And it's also providing, if we need to provide more air purification units and some of those items. And then strategy number 5, again, is specific. I skipped number 4, sorry. High quality staff, retaining staff with declining enrollment to keep the student ratio. So the goal would be in the future, if our enrollment doesn't continue to increase, we have been backfilling our staff so we don't have to lay anybody off. So this year we're using about $1 million of ESSER 2 funds for that. So just keeping that in mind in the future. And then again, strategy number 5 is for kindergarten teacher. So Mosher can decrease their class sizes. And these are really tentative early numbers. I'll just skip right to this looking one, the long blue one, the expenditure status report. Right now, what I'm projecting in the general fund is to have a $686,000 surplus. That is highly dependent on expenditures that still have yet to come, but largely the revenues that are coming in. Again, last year was kind of a strange year at the end of the year with property tax collections. Those were down substantially, and we didn't collect any federal forest fees, which is usually about $170,000. So those two are kind of concerning. So I'm keeping my eye on them, trying to work with a couple of people at the county to figure out exactly what's kind of happening. I think there were some large reserves for, of course, taxes and protest or things like that. And then again, the last page is the federal recap. And to give just a few really brief, quick updates. You already heard Principal Evans talk about the Kirstgens kind of slowly being used. We're finishing up the grant phase of that and moving on to the district phase, which was the heating and cooling units and a few other minor repairs. But with that, we had to finalize an agreement with the State Historical and Preservation Office. In agreement, just to let you know, where we agreed to have a reopening kind of ceremony where we talk about the history of the gym, what happened, what renovations were done. The second one is to have an on-site kind of plaque memorabilia to show it'll have an old picture of the gym, some information about the history of it with a write-up, which I'm the museum in the Education Foundation Museum in there. She's from Mel. Y'all probably know her. She's fabulous, so she's going to help me with that write-up. And then the high school is also going to include a little write-up in their yearbook. So those are the three conditions we have to complete to do the mitigation. Okay, any questions on that section? I know everybody loves to talk numbers.
On the ESSER 3 funds under health and safety, how did it work out with the air filters in the classrooms? I know you took a tour of all the schools and had to decide where to place those and so forth. So how did that work out, and especially in terms of compliance with teachers using them?
Yes, and that we're still trying to work out with the teachers and the ESP staff, because there's it's hard to find subs to come in and work, so we're trying to work out the schedules to get through that particular walkthrough. So we haven't finished that walkthrough. We did one early on last year, but yes, there's another one that we were just talking about. We need to schedule and go through each building and figure that out. So it's still to be determined, but we do have about 100 air purification units we can deploy right now. Probably sent a few of them out. Be postponed.
Any other questions regarding the financial report? Enrollment?
Enrollment, yep. Enrollment, so on the first page, I always give it to you by school, and it includes the virtual academy. On the second page, I added something because I always need to go back and go, well, what was the change from last month? So in the gray and green box, there's a difference column right on the end. It'll show you by grade the changes from last month. So there are in total 11 students less from last month. Majority of that seems to be 12th grade. And I'm not entirely sure what if that was something specific. My guess is it probably could have been cleaned up from the 10-day drop, just a guess, but haven't done a lot of work into that. But it's still pretty close to what we projected to be this year, which is really good news because maybe we won't have to pay back so much like last year. And then the virtual academy, which I know you heard Nick Nelson talk about, as of 10/7 had a total of 134. 49 of those were in the high school. So still on track.
Any questions regarding enrollment update? No? All right.
I have nothing to report this evening, Your Honor. You're honorable in my book.
That one. Resolution 21. Flat.
Can you hear me? Okay. This particular one is kind of a cleanup budget change of appropriations. As you know, we developed the budget in March of last year, so I budgeted for ESSER 1 funds, but we did end up spending all those. So I would like to move some of the ESSER 1 funds down to ESSER 2 and 3, and some of it to our summer learning grants, in which this fiscal year, so started July 1st, still in the middle of summer school, we purchased the refrigerated truck, and 25% of that had to come from the ESSER funds, and the rest came from state. Just needed a budget to spend it. And a technical note on the bus depreciation fund, we received the Volkswagen grant, which is equal to about $83,000. Initially, I thought the Volkswagen grant pays the vendor directly, but they don't. They actually pay the district, so it means the district has to pay the full cost of the bus, so it's a technicality. So I do need to increase that. And as a note, we also, which you'll hear from the transportation director, we have some other buses coming in the form of a grant from another local organization. They'll tell you that there may be another budget request to cover those, but that's just letting you know ahead of time. But that's essentially what that is.
Questions, comments? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion.
To move to approve resolution number 20-22-02, resolution transferring appropriations and redistribution of appropriations.
Second.
Seconded by Director Jones to approve resolution number 21-22-02. None, we'll move to a vote. All right, chair votes aye as well, so that motion passes unanimously. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. For next, we'll continue this with Flath, and it's the Dallas High School Student Pavilion updated project costs.
Yes. This particular project are called If You Give the Pig a Pancake book, because it's like you start with one thing and then it keeps going and going and going. And so we started with ground leveling, but then there were issues with that, so we had to adjust that. And then there was issues with that, and we had to adjust that. And I'll save you the rest of the story. But essentially, the project, which it will be great when it's finished, by the way, is most of the leveling work has been completed. We also, because of the drop, had to install a guardrail because there is a vehicle path there to the kitchen. In addition, we would like to put up a pavilion structure, which will go along with trying to provide more covered space for high school students to eat, because as you know, it's very limited inside. So, and then the actual installation of the pavilion is estimated at $50,000. It may not be that much, but total project of this one has $207,569, and we'll pay for it out of ESSER 3 funds.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions, comments? Director Nelson?
I'll make a motion.
Sure. I'll take the
I'll
motion.
make a motion. I move to approve the district contract with the following vendors to complete the Dallas High School Pavilion project. Crestline Construction, concrete leveling, $24,206. Crestline Construction guardrail installation, $44,400. Mission Construction Concrete, $28,969. RCP Shelters Incorporated Pavilion Structure, $59,934. Crestline Construction Installation of the Pavilion, approval of up to $50,000. I think that's it.
Do I have a second to Director Nelson's motion? Director Thistlefield, seconds. So I've got a motion from Director Nelson to approve the district contract with the following vendors to complete the Dallas High School pavilion project. One, Crestline Construction, concrete leveling, $24,206. Crestline Construction, guardrail installation, $44,460. 3, Mission Construction, concrete, $28,969. RCP Shelters Incorporated, pavilion structure, $1,934. And Crestline Construction, the installation of the pavilion with a not to exceed of $50,000 for a total cost of up to $207,569, which will be paid from our Sr3 funds. Any discussion or comment? Director Richardson?
So yeah, I just want to express my appreciation and acknowledgement that the students were engaged in the process of like the pavilion choice, and that's awesome.
It's always great to see when our students can be involved with stuff like that. Any other comments? If not, we'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving the pavilion cost, please raise your hand and say aye. All right, chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. Our next item will continue with Smith-Blath, and it's the Dallas High School food truck purchase.
And I just wanted to make one more comment. I had a little note. The pavilion itself has to be presented to the Historical Landmarks Commission in the city, so I'll jump over that hurdle next and fill out that paperwork. So it'll be contingent on that, since we're already on a historical roll. The next one is the approval of a food truck at the Dallas High School. Again, I'm hoping this is in collaboration with the finishing of a pavilion, but it'll require one more nutrition staff person, which we would have to be able to hire, but authorizing up to $100,000 to spend on a food truck itself. Essentially, we would have a nutrition person outside next to the pavilion. As you know, the chat and chew at the high school is problematic, difficult to get into, and sometimes not cool. So we're hoping this will be cooler and will increase our meal count. And with that, we can also ask for a request for reimbursement from the feds for each meal that we provide. So I am hoping that the food truck does not cost $100,000, and it's maybe more half that, but having never purchased a food truck, it was an estimation somebody gave me, so I ran with it, and that's where I started. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the explanation on this one. Any comments, questions, discussion? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion.
To approve the district to purchase a food truck authorizing up to $100,000 to spend from the Sr2 funds.
All right, we got a motion from Director Nelson, second from Director Jones to approve the district to purchase a food truck authorizing up to $100,000 to spend from the Sr2 funds. Any discussion on that? All right, if not, we'll move to vote. All in favor to approve the motion to approve the district purchase food truck authorizing up to $100,000 to spend from the Sr2 funds, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. And the chair votes aye as well. That passes unanimously. All right, next is the purchase of additional cameras and system upgrades.
Thank you. I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with our existing camera system. Majority of the cameras are in the high school and the middle school right now. There's very limited ones in the elementaries. They're problematic because of the way they're stored, the information stored, that's full. Long story short, there are some really new, very cool vendors and cameras out there where it actually saves the camera information on the camera and can be stored virtually in a cloud, which of course is secure and safe and has all of that FERPA security on it. But doing some walkthroughs of all the elementaries, that is majority of this cost, is that we lack camera access in a lot of the elementary schools. So this would substantially help alleviate that. The pros are, if we move forward with these cameras, it's a 5-year agreement. We would have to renew some sort of agreement after 5 years, but we own the cameras. If we were ever to move locations, these cameras are mobile, and so very limited wiring is required, which is also the bigger problem, is with their aging facilities, having the wiring to do it. So we have, the IT department and I've looked at several vendors, and we think we have some good options, so I'd like to move forward with this.
Thank you for the explanation. Any questions, comments from the board? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve district staff to move forward with selecting a company to contract with, install, upgrade the camera system district-wide in the amount of up to $175,000 with funds to be used from the ESSER 2 funding.
Second.
Can I clarify that? Yeah. I'm sorry for the feedback. That was an initial number until we went through and did the walkthrough. So we're asking for 240,000.
Yes, it's 240,000 now. So I'll reread that. Okay. So the amount of money that is going to be spent, or up to, in the amount of up to 240,000 with funds to be used from the ESSER 2 funding.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Director Rasmussen. All right, got a motion from Director Nelson to approve district staff to move forward with selecting a company to contract with to install/upgrade the camera system district-wide in the amount of up to $240,000 with funds to be used from the ESSER 2 funding. Any discussion around that? No? Move to a vote. All in favor of approving the motion, please raise your hand and say aye. All right, and the chair votes aye. That passes unanimously. And our last action item is approving the funding to replace band instruments at the Dallas High School.
Okay, this particular one was brought forward by the band teacher at the high school, and he came in with a pretty fantastic presentation and the need for the band instruments to be replaced. The ones they have on hand right now are beyond repair, so they do need to be properly disposed of. However, the students that are not able to participate in band are the students where parents can't afford to pay for the band instruments. So this will definitely give him a good increase in the band equipment. He does have a longer term sustainable plan, so this will get him the first start, and then he'll be able to start doing some fundraising. We did check with the Dallas Middle School, and they seem to be in a really good place, and I think the middle school and the high school work really well together, so they could even share the equipment if it's necessary, but this will certainly help move that program ahead. So we're requesting $70,000 from ESSER 2 funds.
All right. Any comments, questions, or discussion?
I have a question.
I just thought of one. I just am curious how band equipment ties in with the requirements for ESSER 2. That's all.
That is a valid question. And part of what ESSER 2 is also meant to do is help underserved populations. And the district has been unable to do a lot of the events and the things that they would be able to collect fundraisers for and do some of those things. So we haven't been able to keep up on that. So those two do help meet it.
Director Wilson?
Yes, so the question is, what is the age of in other words, for how long have the instruments that need replacing, how long have they been used?
I'd have to find out.
I can't hear you.
I know that the band teacher did give me that information, and I want to say it's more than a few. But they've been repaired so many times they're beyond repairable, but I can get you the information because he does really have a long list of what the issues are with repairing them. I can get that to you.
What I'm understanding is you're not replacing everything, it's just instruments that need replacing, correct?
Yes, their current supply of loaner band instruments is extremely low, to the point where they're mostly borrowing from the middle school. So that does affect the amount of students that can participate in bands, so that might be why we see less student participation in that area. So he's hoping to definitely, this will help increase the band participation a lot. And there's quite a few instruments, I should have brought the number with me, but it's quite a few that he purchases with these.
The process for this is a lot of the students rent equipment too from the high school.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, a lot of the students will rent equipment from year to year. They can't afford to buy one. So now what we're getting into is we don't even have the equipment to rent to the students themselves at a reasonable rate for them so they can participate.
So it's a better deal.
No.
Okay.
And he has a substantial discount because of the volume.
Any other? Item. Oh.
A response from Mr. Kelly, and he's saying some, for instruments that we use, probably some dating back 70 years, 70. So
70 years?
Yeah, a few of the instruments that date back to the 50s and 60s. So that's the beginning of the range of some of the instruments that we're talking about.
Okay.
So that's not all of them, but that's some of the oldest stuff. And that's stuff that's still being used. It's that we contract with to have repaired from year to year with Beacock Music. So.
Okay.
I had an exchange student 2 years ago at the high school, and his name was Umid Kaplan, and he was in band, and I got to actually see physically some of these instruments that they were using in band. And all these stories are definitely true. So these instruments are old. We had to end up taking our student to Portland to get an instrument for him to use because you guys didn't have what he needed. You couldn't supply him with it. So this is needed.
Any other questions or comments from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion for this action item.
Move to approve the district to purchase band equipment as presented from the ESSER 2 funds up to $70,000.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Director Richardson, seconded by Director Rasmussen, to approve the district to purchase band equipment as presented from the ESSER 2 funds of up to $70,000. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to know what they're going to do with these archaeological artifacts.
Maybe we can sell them as antiques.
That's good.
Great question. All right, hearing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, sorry, no, we have that. We'll move to a vote. All in favor of approving purchase of district to purchase band equipment as presented in the ESSER 2 funds, please raise your hand and say aye. All right, and the chair votes aye as well. Motion passes.
Thank you, and you'll have a lot of staff be happy tomorrow, so I appreciate that. And I hope you don't see me for any more requests, but no guarantees, so thank you.
No, thank you for all that. That's a lot of stuff that we're able to get in the hands of our students and for our students, so this is great. All right, our next section is updates on various school board policies, and kind of in the interest of time, Dr. Bernal earlier today, I believe, sent recommendations on some of the bracketed language where we have some decision-making to do. Has anyone kind of been able to see and understand that? If there's not any objection, the recommendation would be just to, if there are any kind of updates or comments, that we can send them to Dr. Bernal to incorporate that for our second reading. And then that way we can continue. Anything specific that you guys would like to mention in the up for review?
Yes, I had a question. What is the definition of general identity? That's a word that's being introduced.
Is that HB, or House Bill 3041 provides a definition of sexual?
Are we on the, are you all on the same thing that I'm looking at, which is the non-discrimination policy? Is that what we're?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
It's a scribbling thing. Should we, instead of the word general, should be gender?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing that I saw was they removed the definition on the footnotes of what sexual orientation is, and yet the word is still in the document. So I didn't understand.
Right. We'll get the clarification for the second reading and make sure that we have the appropriate reference.
The word sexual orientation is not being eliminated from the policy. It's footnoted, but the footnote, you go down to the footnote, and that's being crossed out, the definition of sexual orientation. So I didn't understand why they're removing the definition.
Okay. Dr. Bernal will look into that and make sure we have an update for our second reading. Do you have any others, Director Nelson? All right, if there's no other just kind of pressing ones, as I mentioned, send any comments to Dr. Bernal, so she'll get those incorporated or responded to, and that way we can have those updated for our second reading at the next meeting. And that would be inclusive of the ARs, correct, Dr. Bernal? Okay. All right, that leads us to our last item on the agenda, which is the adjournment of the regular school board meeting. So thank you, everyone. I know this was a long one tonight. We had a lot of good information, good reports from our different staff, and great things happening for our kids via some of those action items. So thank you, everyone, for tonight, and we'll see you next month. I'll adjourn this meeting.
Bye-bye.